So raise your hand if you've ever thought things like, I'll never work. Nothing ever works for me. Why me? I ruin everything. What's the point? You can't trust anyone. You know. Yeah, right.
We'll hit that. Definitely more like me.
Yeah, so as you can see, you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Negativity is incredibly common, and also it's there for good evolutionary reasons. Our ancestors needed it to survive. However, in the modern world, it often can really ruin our quality of life. And the survival value of negativity is that it's better to be safe than sorry, right? So we err on the side of caution. And we try to find the flaws, we look at the obstacles, finding reasons and doubting whether things will work, predicting the worst, not trusting anyone, right? So the thing is, it prevents us from thriving in relationships in the modern world. Now let's look at, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the key elements of negativity and then how to actually turn it around, just a brief explanation or understanding of what underpins this. And that's the idea of reality. Like, so reality, do we see the world as it is? We actually don't. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. And what I mean by that is that we perceive reality being, that if you think about it as a territory, according to our beliefs and according to how we feel. So the map we make of the territory, the map is the understanding we have of reality, depends on what we believe in and how we feel. So the thing is, you wouldn't use a 1920s map for a 2026 city, because you would not get anywhere. It's a very outdated map. But we also have internal maps that are outdated, and if we don't update them, then we end up seeing canyons where there are bridges. We see obstacles where there actually are opportunities. So this doesn't mean, of course, that we have to have the Pollyanna attitude of everything is great, let's ignore problems, let's just be unrealistically or toxically positive. You know, that's not what I mean. Just thinking happy thoughts doesn't really work. In fact, if you have a particularly low self-esteem, what can happen there is actually it can make the low self-esteem worse, because the beliefs that you have contradict the map. So you need to actually change the map. So you need to change the way you look at yourself and the world first. And then, once you've done that, then we can think about objectives, thinking about the outcome, thinking about the steps to get there. Because if you think you can't do it, you can have all the strategy in the world, but you won't do it, and it won't work. Does that make sense? Yeah, so okay. So let's have a look then at understanding negativity. What are the key elements of negativity? So the first thing to really own in is that negative thinking is not realistic thinking. You know, some people think, oh, I'm just realistic. But actually, it's a biased view of the world. It's a biased filter. It's kind of like the proverbial rose-tinted glasses are actually, you know, brown or gray or black-tinted glasses in this case. So you're not really seeing the whole picture. Don't have a really balanced whole view of reality. And the problem with that is that it leads you to miss opportunities, to see, to miss opportunities to engage in interesting activities. Even, you know, we were talking, like the person that was talking before, you know, was talking about all the things that we could be building about our business. But if we have this negative bias, we're not even going to see those opportunities. Also, pessimism and doubt prevent you from starting. And they also, people that are pessimistic and have this negative outlook tend to give up sooner than other people. They also have significantly more illness and die sooner. And also, if that wasn't enough, it also can lead you to lose motivation, because what's the point of trying? You're going to fail, right? That kind of thing. And then that leads to worrying, and that leads to exhaustion, and that leads to depression. And then it's a real negative cycle that goes down and down and down. We really don't want to do that, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, we tend to, by the way, if there's like something that doesn't sit right with you, please stop me, because I'm going fast like a train just because it's 45 minutes. But I don't mind interruptions. So we tend to find what we're looking for. So if I said to you, go find red cars in the city, you will notice a lot more red cars than you would if I hadn't told you, because you're looking for it. So the same goes with positive or negative. If you're looking for the negative, you'll find it. If you're looking for the positive, you'll find it. So the bad news is that we all tend to have a predetermined, kind of predisposition towards either negative outlook or positive outlook. That's the bad news. However, the good news is that this is not fixed. It's not an immutable part of you or character trait. That's not what it is. So you can change it. Okay? And you can change it by taking charge of what you give energy to, what you pay attention, what you listen to in your own head. I'm talking about inner voice here. Hopefully you don't hear actual voices. But you can spot the negative assumptions in your head, the negative automatic thought that comes. Doubt its accuracy, and we're going to go a lot more in detail about this. You can reality check, is it really true? You can change your environment, meaning the people that you surround yourself with. And especially, the most important thing, you can choose what you encourage in yourself. It's about cultivating and encouraging what you're practicing, right? So far so good. Now, let's look at the key elements of negative thinking. I've got them written down as well. So the first one is that you are assuming you're right. In this case, you're assuming that our negative thoughts are accurate representations of reality without questioning them, right? So start to doubt yourself a little. Automatic negativity might actually just be an interpretation of what seems to be the reality. But how certain are you really? How certain? Give it a number, at 0 to 100. Is it 10%? Is it 70%? Is it 40%? What is it? This actually helps you to make it more real, or in this case, unreal, like understanding it's actually something you made up. Is it, or are you certain? So what facts back it up? Is there actual data here? So I'm going to give you an example. Say that you are walking down the street and you see your colleague and you wave and they don't wave back. Immediately you think, oh my God, they hate me. They're never, oh God, I've done something wrong. Oh shit, and you, has anyone done something kind of like that before? More or less?
Yeah. I make a point, when I'm mowing on the boom, which is the outside of the property, if someone walks along the footpath, I will stop and I will say hello as they walk past. There's a courtesy. Most people say nothing back.
Right.
A lot of that.
We're not used to it, right? We're not used to it.
Scared.
So that's just telling me though that you don't automatically, do you automatically think, oh God, they hate me? Or do you just think, maybe they're surprised?
That I've been brought up to not say hello back.
Yeah. So the point is, right, you don't just automatically go, oh my God, they hate me. You think, oh, maybe they didn't see me, maybe they're not wearing the glasses, maybe they're really stressed out. What other possibilities are there? What other explanations? Yes.
Mine
is more that you said someone, and this happened to me only the other day. I saw someone I knew. He knew me, and he just got away. He was in a distance. Eyes met, and I just said, "G'day." I make a point of doing it because it really grosses me off. But he just got away as if he didn't know who I was.
Right.
And then you start to question and think, okay, so is that what you want to do? You know, it just doesn't.
Yeah, but the important thing is that you're not assuming anything, right? You stop for a moment and you ask yourself, what could it be? Is it really that they hate me? Is it really that they don't like me? Is it, or could it actually be something else? So the point I'm making is that you gotta stop, rather than just assuming that you know what reality is. Take a moment, take a breath, and ask yourself, how certain am I? What are other possible explanations here? Can I sit with the uncertainty until I get more data, actual proof? You could ask, oh, did you see me? Did you not see me? Then you know. But you gotta stop and wait. So otherwise, you'll be off with the negative thinking. The second one is having a strong negative bias. So what that means is that we assume that even neutral or positive events are actually negative. So opportunities become threats. Potential friends or clients or users, perfect genuine compliments become sarcasm. If you're looking for it, you'll find it. So negative thinking is a biased thinking, and it's a prejudice in favor of a very narrow view of reality, a narrow view of the world that excludes the possibility of anything else, or of a more moderate, positive perspective. So, for example, if someone is racist, this is something that we encounter still these days. People that are racist. Okay, what's going on there? They are thinking they are racially biased. So they narrow, limited view of one group of people, of the superiority or inferiority of one group of people or one racial type, and they are not able to accommodate the view that perhaps we will have something, humanity in common. No, not possible. So that's number 2, strong negative bias. Then we filter out the good. So this is related to this, and it's when we ignore or distort any evidence that contradicts our belief or view. So a person's negative map can be so rigid that they will distort reality to make it fit their pessimistic expectation. So, for example, say that you do a high-stakes presentation and it goes really well, and then at the end the CEO tells you, oh, that was really great, and then the colleagues come to you and they go, oh, can we have your slides? I really enjoyed it. Now, somebody would think, yeah, this is a positive interaction, but no. If you have this kind of negative thinking, you could distort reality by, when the CEO tells you great work, you think, yeah, he's just being polite, he's having a good day, right? You attribute your success to luck. They just asked me the easy questions. They didn't really ask me the hard ones I didn't know. And you magnify the flaws that maybe you stuttered for like 5 seconds, but the rest of the presentation went well, but you ignored the 20 minutes that you were on a roll, and you go, oh my God, I stuttered, I can't even speak properly, God, it was terrible. So even in this case, when it's clearly a win, you're transforming this victory into a perceived failure. And because it fits the negative map that you're incompetent, right? So that's why we really need to change the map, right? And then the other one is all or nothing, black and white, extreme thinking. So this one is when you say to yourself, when basically things are either fantastic and perfect, or they're a disaster. There's nothing in between, no gray shades. And the thing about this is that this kind of thinking is emotional. What I mean by that is that we have the amygdala, right? I talked about it last year, if you remember. But there's an alarm center of the brain whose job is to alert you to threats and to sound the alarm. And when we perceive threats, whether they are real out there or actual or just imagined ones, the alarm goes off and we automatically go into fighting, fleeing, fixing, or phoning. Phoning means like people pleasing kind of thing, or freezing, right? And this happens automatically. And also, another thing that happens is that this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for verbal, analytical thinking, rational thinking, that's inhibited. So it's not working properly. And the reason for this is, if you think about it, if you actually had someone running at you with a knife, you wouldn't stop thinking, I wonder if that knife is actually real. Are they joking, maybe? Because you'd be dead. So we are on the side of caution, and we go, okay, running. And by the way, you don't get to choose what you do. Your amygdala decides for you. It's automatic, right? But so what happens is that we are in this negative thinking. So extreme black and white, right? And the thing about that is that it's going to distort reality, of course. It's going to make us feel more scared. We're going to worry more, and then because we're worried and we think more negatively, and it's again this negative spiral that we need to stop. So part of becoming more realistic or more positive, like the first thing you got to do is calm down. Like if you are having these kind of thoughts and you're noticing they're really extreme, you are agitated, you are in this stress response. So you need to calm the nervous system down, and you can do that by either the 7-11 breathing, so when you're breathing through your nose, breathing in for 7, breathing out for 11 for 5 minutes or so. If you're having a panic attack, that's going to stop the panic attack. So calming down, or exercise, like going down up and down the stairs, getting that heart rate going, so that the stress response can stop. It's mimicked and it stops. And then you can start using your prefrontal cortex again. So we want to get that back online, because that's how we can think clearly and rationally. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do it. So, the extreme thought of nothing ever goes right for me becomes, that didn't go quite as well as I'd hoped. Very different, right? In one, there's nothing you can do about it, you are powerless. In the second one, it didn't go as you wanted, but there's things you can do to make it better next time, right? So far, so good?
So, just going back right up to the start there, I know a lot of us older guys, we've just pushed ourselves too hard and burned ourselves out, and we are stubborn. Ollie's young, came to mind, but we just focused. But last year, I pushed myself too hard. So my daughter invited me to a place in Hastings called O Studio. There's one in Wellington, and it's a pop-up thing, but a sauna, cold plunge, hot pool. Repeat yourself, keep doing the same thing. So it's the cold plunge that revives you. You've got to put yourself in an ice bath, it's about 10 degrees. And it's the breathing techniques, gets you flowing, and then I'm back into the hot pool. It's getting that blood flowing sensation. I took my wife along, and it empowers you. Then you come out revived for about 4 hours of just wow. I even go through a recovery sleep because I have Achilles problems because I'm running and pushing the mower, and it got these movements on, it stimulates your feet, and it gets that flow. And I feel so much better. This Sundays we usually do that just for something for me, to get those positive thoughts, because it burns out, you're negative, you're tired, and then we're fresh for Monday again, and you go again. But people go running.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what it is. That's yeah, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah. That's cool.
So do you do that every Sunday?
Oh, not every Sunday. It depends on Tracy. She's working on. She's sleep off.
Yeah, not just as a sauna. Yeah, he walks outside of the valley and the
How much of this mental
Say it again. I'm gonna get to that actually. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that.
But I think you finish at 1:40, that doesn't work.
That's right. That's right. Look good for a donkey.
It's behind vote, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're going to get to the social media thing in a moment. But so the other thing, and I'm not going to stay on this very long, but this is actually really important and really it can be very, very useful. But I just don't have time to get into it because it's a whole talk on its own. The other thing is when you get in a negative mood, right? Sometimes you get in a negative mood. It might be that you're feeling stressed, scared, or sad even. What's happening is not, it's not just that you have negative thoughts and that produces negative moods, but sometimes the mood comes first, and then come the negative thoughts, and then it gets reinforced. And sometimes when that happens, especially if you're scared or, like I said, or feeling down, it's because it's actually a signal. It's a signal that one of 9 primary human needs are not being met right now. And what these primary human needs are, and we all have them, they need to be met in some way, and they need to be met in a healthy way, because if we get desperate, we can end up trying to meet them in negative, in unhealthy ways. And I'll give you a very short example of that, and then I'm going to explain what these are. I didn't unfortunately have time to write them down, but I'm going to write them down as we speak. So imagine that there's like 5 people. They're going into a desert on a safari, whatever, and they have 1 liter of water. There's an accident. The car breaks down, and then they're left with just 1 liter of water for the 4 of them. A day passes. The water's finished. They get really thirsty and start freaking out. At the end of the 2nd day, one of them goes, right, he's gone too far, and he's like, okay, I am going to drink engine oil. That person's going to die immediately. The other 4, in this case, it's a good story. Somebody else comes and sees the car, and they're rescued at the last minute. But the point of this is that if you're desperate enough, you will try to meet these needs in unhealthy ways, and we all do this, and then we are vulnerable to all kinds of things. So I'm going to describe what these needs are in a second. If you want to know more about this, I've got this fascinating book by Mark Tyrrell called The Dark Side of Human Needs. And it's a very small book. It's really easy to read. Even though it's made for hypnotherapists, it's actually really good for the general public because it really explains a lot of behaviors that normally sound crazy. And you just look at it and go, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So the needs we have are the need for attention. I'm going to write them down actually just here quickly. The need for attention, meaning the need to give and receive attention. So being seen, right? And seeing another person for who they really are. Safety, that's an obvious one. That's just could be financial, physical, emotional, health, right? Control, we all need to feel we have some control over the world and ourselves. Problems come if we think we should have more control than we have, or if we think we have 0 control. We need intimacy, love, right? We need connection, community. We need status. So I am recognized, I'm part of this whole. We need challenge. So the variety as well in our life. Growth, we need to take care of the mind, body, and health. So basically this means exercise, rest, and nutrition. And then we have meaning, purpose, serving something bigger than ourselves. If one of these needs is not met, you're going to feel down. Why? Because most people start kind of freaking out and they start ruminating and worrying about it. Now the point is, we don't want to ruminate, we want to problem solve, which is very different. So we want to first ask ourselves, next time you feel down, ask yourself, which one of these needs is not being met? We're going to go through this a little bit more later, don't worry. Then we want to go, okay, how can I resolve this problem? What steps can I take? Really practical steps. You want to do things, obviously, that make you feel better in healthy ways and avoid unhealthy ways. But again, unfortunately, I can't really go into it, but it's very, very interesting. Go get that book. So the other thing is, just checking the time, yeah. The other, the most important thing I want to talk about actually now is the last key element of negative thinking, which is the negative explanatory style. So this is, if you don't remember anything else, this one's a really important one. So psychologist Martin Seligman talks about how we explain events to ourselves affects our mood and our resilience. So in other words, it's not so much about what happens to you, but about how you interpret it and how you respond to it. It's not what happens, it's how you interpret it and how you respond to it. So negative, people that think habitually in a negative outlook, they do three things. They use three, they use a negative explanatory style, meaning they have three destructive patterns. These, I'm going to explain what they are. They're the three, what I call the three P's, just to remember them better. Making things pervasive, personal, and permanent. So, for example, something happens like you fail a test, you make it pervasive. It's not just I fail a test, it becomes useless. You treat it as permanent. This always happens, it will never change. You make it personal, you blame yourself. It's all my fault. So I'll give you an example, a practical example. Say that you arrive late at a meeting, right? You make it pervasive. You go, I can't even get to the meeting in time. Look at me, I'm clearly failing on my career. Right? So you're spreading it from this specific incident, and you're just saying, and you make it apply to your whole identity. It's a character trait now. You make it permanent. I'm always late. It's, no matter how I try, I'm just not punctual, right? So then you view this temporary lapse as permanent and unchangeable. And finally, you make it personal. The meeting started late because of me. I ruined everybody's morning. I'm such a disorganized person, right? So then you take 100% of the blame, where you could be like, well, actually there was an accident, maybe the elevator was broken, these are the mitigating factors, right? And not only this, but when good things happen, you do the opposite. So when good things happen, you make them not personal, not pervasive, and not permanent. So say that you land a job, and you make it not personal, I only got it because they were desperate. Right? You make it not permanent, it's just the honeymoon phase, they'll realize that I'm terrible and they'll fire me. And you make it not pervasive, I'm landing my job doesn't really mean anything, the rest of my life is a shambles. So then again, the result is that you don't credit yourself, you credit luck and timing instead of skill, and you turn a major win again into a source of anxiety. Right? So, what do we want to do instead? We want to have a positive explanatory style. So a positive explanatory style does exactly the opposite of the negative one, obviously. So bad events, when I mean bad events, I mean something that happened that you didn't want to happen, or something that you wanted to happen, didn't happen. So for sake of simplicity, let's say something bad happens, like you invite guests for dinner and you burn the dinner, okay? So you need to make it not permanent. This was just one bad meal. I'll be back to cooking my usual meal tomorrow. You make it not pervasive. You go, I just got distracted by a telephone call. It doesn't mean I'm a bad cook. And you make it not personal. You know, the oven temperature wasn't quite right, that dial is not very well calibrated. It's not that you're like excusing everything, but you're just saying that played a part. Or if a good event happens, right, like say that you learned a new language, you make it personal. I achieved this because I practiced, I was determined, I am intelligent, and I worked hard. You make it permanent. I have a natural aptitude for learning new things, and this will stay with me for the rest of my life. And you make it pervasive. Because I can master a language, I can also master other things, I can learn new stuff, right? So you see how this is so much better. So let's do one little exercise. I want you to think about, right now, something that happened that was negative, something bad, something that you didn't want to happen, happened. Just think about it for a sec, and then when you're done, just raise your hand so I know that you've all done it, okay? Yeah?
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, so now ask yourself the 3 Ps. So we want to ask, is it personal, is it permanent, is it pervasive? So, in other words, is it really everywhere in your life or just in one area? So just answer that in your head. Is it everywhere in your life or just in one area? Is it truly permanent or will it pass? Okay. Is it 100% your fault or were there other factors involved? So with this simple technique, the 3 Ps, you start already to lose the negativity's grip.
So why do we become grumpy old men?
So much to what to say.
I had to say, I'm
Not sure about a week.
I thought that would have been first question.
Say a lot of things on the street.
Great question. Yeah, you just say as you want. You know, like just.
I could have worn the t-shirt.
Yeah. Okay, so other elements that will keep you. So that's the most important thing. Now I'll just give you like a little bit more on other things that also can sneak in and make you more negative. Avoidance. Avoidance will protect you. Well, you'll try to protect yourself using avoidance, but actually, like avoidance to protect ourselves from the fear of failing or the fear of disappointment, right? Now, some people stay negative because it's a cushion. It's like an emotional cushion. So they avoid an action to avoid feeling these feelings that they imagine they will feel, but actually they prevent growth. So for example, you find an excuse not to do something difficult on a presumption that, oh well, if I don't try, I can't fail. But actually the reality is that you will fail because you don't try. So it's the classic thing of, I'm not going to go to university because I'm too dumb and I fail. And actually you don't go to university and you fail. You don't do the thing you actually wanted to do. Procrastination. I'm sure that all of, a few of us do this. Now, procrastination is about trying to protect ourselves from the fear of failure because we leave things to the last minute so that if we fail, we've got an excuse. Well, I ran out of time. There you go. It's not because I failed, I just ran out of time. Nice excuse, right? So the thing about that is that we really, the cure procrastination is to do the most difficult thing first. So the thing you don't want to do it now. Do it first, before everything else. And what will happen is that actually, and again, I can't really go into this, but this is really interesting about the dopamine and how dopamine works, and it's the reward center of our brain, right? We talk a lot about dopamine these days. But the thing is, if you do the difficult thing first, say first thing in the morning, it's going to be so much easier, not only to do this thing than in any other time of the day, but it's going to make other difficult things easier. Because when you start doing something difficult that requires, sustained effort, your dopamine level goes up kind of like this, nice and slow. And when you get to the point where you achieved it, you feel good, then it takes quite a long time to go down. So you continue to feel quite good, and while this curve goes down, you also have more motivation to do more difficult things. But if you don't do this, and you look at YouTube, your dopamine spikes up really high, then it goes down really low, and then you have zero motivation to do anything else, and everything feels absolutely crazy difficult. So that's why it's really important, like, not to look at your phone the first 2 hours of the day, like really try to avoid that, because it's gonna make your life harder. Anyway, so just that's on the side. Complaining is another thing. I know that we all like to complain a little bit, that's okay, but if it becomes like a national sport, like in Italy or the UK, you have a problem, because then what happens is that not only you're gonna make other people feel bad because it's contagious, it brings people down, but it also brings you down. So if you want to complain, make sure it's short, and then you've got like, maximum 5 minutes, and then you've got an action that you're taking so that you actually feel good. So it's just venting, but then you're doing something about it, right? Okay, and beware of negative language. Language is really powerful. Words like frail, slow, actually make people go slower. So the language you use is very important. So instead of saying things like, oh my God, it's a nightmare, say, it's a little bit annoying. You're not denying the fact that something happened that is not pleasant, but you're not making it a nightmare, because a nightmare and a disaster is going to make you feel much worse than saying, it's a little bit annoying, right? So if it's not empowering, can it? Other things are like negative people. Okay, we all know those people, right? Some people that just complain. That's contagious. Try to minimize, your kind of, like being near these people, and try to just slowly change the subject a little bit. And what did go well? If they're constantly just talking about the things that didn't go well. Also, negative mindset, this kind of thing is learned from our caregivers. So it's passed down through families. So be careful with your kids. Don't do it in front of your kids, because they will learn and they'll do it again. Other things, briefly, are too much carbs and sugar, believe it or not. If you have a lot of white pasta, loads of cakes and stuff like that all the time, what happens is it spikes your blood sugar level. That causes energy crashes, and it also causes low mood. So, try not to have, if that happens to you, like especially after lunch, some people really crash down, that's why, that's what's going on. So try reduce refined carbs and sugars. And too much TV and internet. What happens with that? Doom scrolling. Like, we try to escape from negative feelings through, watching TV or being on the computer. The problem is, this actually does so many things to you that are really terrible. But we're just going to concentrate on one thing, which is it's going to lower your mood. So it's going to make you feel worse in the long term. If you want to feel better, research shows us that socializing, having sex, and reading are actually the things that work. So, and exercise. Exercise is really important, but we can go to that in a moment. Finally, I'm sure that some of these you weren't surprised, but about regret. We all do things we, regret. It's normal. But the important thing is to ask yourself, would I do it again? I hope not. And the other is, what lesson can I learn from this? And then let it go. Beating yourself up about it isn't going to make it better. In fact, it's going to stop you from doing better the next time, and it's going to keep you stuck. And finally, disappointment. Disappointment is a signal. It's not a destination. We all get disappointed from time to time. But ask yourself, where it's a signal of what? It's a signal that our expectations were unrealistic, or that the strategy wasn't correct. So just ask yourself, Were my expectations too high or too low? And was my strategy, does my strategy need to change? Okay. So the point of this is nothing is good or bad, but as Shakespeare says, thinking makes it so. I love that quote, it's one of my favorite quotes. And to illustrate this with a little example story, there is a Buddhist story that was popularized by Alan Watts, the writer, called Maybe. Have you ever heard of this one? No? So in this story, there's a farmer horse runs away, and all the farmer's friends go, "Oh, God, what bad luck." And the farmer goes, "Maybe." Then the horse returns with a bunch of other wild horses. And the farmer's friends go, "What great luck." And he goes, "Maybe." And then the farmer's son breaks his leg while riding one of the horses. And everybody goes, "Oh, what about luck?" And the farmer says, "Maybe." And finally, the soldiers, there's a war, breaks out, soldiers come, and they don't conscript the boy because he's lame. And everybody says, "Boy, great luck." And he says, "Maybe." So the point is, events aren't really good and bad by themselves. It's just, you can't really see the full picture. There's different costs and benefits to anything, events or choices. You can't actually know if a different choice would have given a different result or it would have been better. If only, it's just a fantasy. Try to really run away from if only. It's like, what if? Those two things are just, try not to use them. And just realize, there's impermanence. So the nature of life is that everything shifts. A blessing can be a curse can become a blessing, right? So the key lesson then, let's summarize everything, is that events are not just good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We can't see the full picture. Negativity is biased thinking. It's a filter. Negative thinking is a habit. It's not who you are. It's not your identity. You can change it with practice, consistent practice, and the word consistency there is like underlined. Think about how long it took for you to learn all the habits that you have. It's going to take practice to change your habits into something different. So most people think that it's easier to change than it actually is, and then they give up too soon. So don't give up. Keep going. Your new map can be started today, right? So you want to challenge your explanatory style. You want to make it a bit more balanced. So technique number 1, and these are going to be in the handout that is over there. So technique number 1, catch those negative assumptions, the negative dramatic thoughts. Become aware of them, in other words. Ask, how certain am I? Really, 1 to 100. Do I have all the facts? Is it even helpful to look at it this way? And use the 3 Ps. For bad events, is it personal? Is it pervasive? Is it permanent? No, it's not. For good events, is it personal? Is it pervasive? Is it personal? Is it permanent? Yes, it is. So the opposite, basically. Replace extreme negative thoughts with moderate ones, but remember, you gotta calm yourself in order to do that. So nothing ever works out for me becomes that didn't go as well as hoped. But I've had successes before, and I'll have successes again. That's technique number 1. Technique number 2, meet your basic needs. Those ones over there. Feeling down is a sign that one of these needs is not being met. Regularly check with yourself. Sleep. Am I sleeping enough? Am I eating well, nutritious food? Am I getting enough exercise? This is a big one, by the way. Do I have social connection? Do I have... When was the last time that I laughed at a joke? I don't think you have any problems with that one. Do I have any meaningful activity that I look forward to? Do I have downtime? You know, do I sleep enough? Look, the downtime though, make it less TV, less internet scrolling, more reading, more sex, and if you can. And I'm sure it helps you.
Kids always you good. Wait, we're tight.
That's popular. That's a popular. And when you're feeling down, remind yourself, this mood is temporary. It will pass. This too shall pass. Believe it or not, moods, like feelings, if we just leave the feelings alone and we don't feed them with thoughts and worries, they take about 90 seconds to pass. So in the moment, it feels really like, oh, but actually, if you try to relax through it and just be calm and curious about it, in about 90 seconds, it will pass. Do something though, like action beats rumination, even if you don't feel like it. Move your body. Move your body, move your body. The pro tip is exercise has been proven by science and research to be better than antidepressants. So exercise meaning dancing. Oh, great! I love that. Yeah, that fun. Make it fun. You know, right? You don't want to. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. So even if it's just a brisk walk, like you could, integrate it in your life. So maybe you go to work with your car. If it's possible, go to work on foot or by bike. You don't like that? Well, maybe you could listen to music while you do it, or a podcast or an audiobook. Just
take a lawnmower.
yeah, a lawnmower. Yeah, so exercise really can help prevent depression and can stop panic attacks as well, and anxiety. Really, really, really powerful. Technique 3: control your environment. Be mindful of who you spend time with. The emotions are contagious. Reduce time spent on negative news. I know we have to stay informed, but just control that time. Don't constantly look at the news. That's excessive TV or doom scrolling is going to make a mash of your brain pretty much. And actively choose inputs and people that uplift you rather than drain you. Calm down and think rationally. Technique number 4. So self-hypnosis is one way of doing this, and there's an audio track going to be on this page. Also, on Inside Timer app on your phone, if you go and download that app, they try and make you pay, but you don't have to pay. It's actually, you can use it for free as well. If you search for my name, there's like 4 different free guided meditations, one of which I actually made for you guys called Stop Negative Thoughts. And there's also other people, there's other different kinds of meditation. And you could just do it on your own as well, just like without any help. You could just sit and kind of be quiet for 5 minutes. We are not trying to get rid of the thoughts, you're just kind of focusing on your breath. And finally, technique number 5, focus on actionable steps and progress. Track the progress. So what I mean by track the progress, again in this PDF, there's like a tracker at the end. I added it so that you can look at your progress and rating things like, statements like I feel generally relaxed, or I can modify the screen thoughts, because actually it's been proven that if you track the progress, it makes you progress faster. You are not a helpless product of your genes or your past conditioning or your family or what happened to you. The environment around you, you can try to control as much as possible. You can't always control everything, but deliberate practice can actually shape your outlook much more than you might expect. In conclusion, what I would like to say is just pick one negative pattern. Start easy. Pick one negative pattern that you tend to go to, right? Challenge this one particular one this week. This is like the pattern that keeps repeating, like the voice that keeps going. Everybody's got one of some kind. And then ask yourself, how do I explain it? Is my explanation empowering, helpful? Use the 3 Ps. For excuses, because we have excuses as well. Try to ask yourself, okay, this is the excuse that I always have, oh, I'm too old, oh, I'm too unfit, whatever it is, and just ask yourself, do I have to listen to that, really? It's a choice. And then take one small action that meets your basic need. It could be going for a walk, it could be calling a friend, it could be going to see a comedy show, it could be going to sleep earlier today, that kind of thing. And just remember, never, ever, ever give up, because it's not about the big changes, it's about small tweaks, small steady improvements. They compound to give you a much bigger transformation than if you try to change it all at once and then you'll fail, right? So you do have the power to shape your mind, to rewire your mind. This brain is really, really neuroplastic. It can change. And a more calm, a more positive, resilient version of you is actually possible. But the journey starts with one thought at a time, and awareness is the most important thing. And the last thing I want to leave you on is just a little story about excuses, because I know that we all have excuses, and even if we think, oh yeah, that's all well and good and I understand it, but, and that can just stop it all from happening, right? So I just want to give you a couple of stories about people that really had good excuses, but they didn't let these excuses count, really. They didn't let them stop them. So one you might have heard of, the legless ace. His name is Douglas Bader. He lost both legs in a plane crash. The Air Force told him he would never fly again. He refused to accept his medical retirement. Believe it or not, he rejoined the RAF, and during World War II, he was a pilot with 10 legs. Didn't even know you could do that. He became a legendary fighter and had 22 victories, and he proved pretty much that even physical loss doesn't mean loss of capability. And the other example is Ellen Keller. This is even more crazy. She's also known as the silent advocate. She became blind and deaf at 19 months old. She lived in a world of total silence and darkness. She learned to communicate through touch and vibration. She became the first deaf and blind person to earn a college degree. I don't even know how. She wrote 14 books, and you want to hate her, right? And toured 35 countries as an activist. So she, more than anyone, proved that a valid excuse, which absolutely she had, is not a barrier, because if you don't accept it, right? So that's really me. Now we can have some questions.